Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Prime Minister Andrew Holness to tour demolition site in Vernon Lodge, St. Catherine. Calls for legislation to formalize settlement arrangements. And later in sports, West Indies lose second T20 to Australia. Our machine masters, and here are the details. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is expected to address residents in Clifton, Vernon Lodge, St. Catherine shortly after several housing structures were demolished yesterday morning. Now, our news team is in the community awaiting the Prime Minister's address, and we will have the latest as soon as it is available. Now, the Prime Minister's visit follows over 24 hours of debate, controversy and outcry, as instructions for the demolition were based on indications that criminals were directly involved in the unauthorized sale of the lands. Meanwhile, an appeal this afternoon for measures to be put in place to prevent any future demolitions like what transpired on Thursday in Clifton, St. Catherine. The call comes from Professor of Urban Planning at the University of Technology, Dr. Carol Archer. Details in this report. Tears rolling down the faces of some of these proposed landowners in Clifton, Vernon Lodge, St. Catherine, as they watched their houses being demolished by this excavator. Some have spent millions in acquiring the land and have started the building process. However, since they do not have legal documents to show ownership of the land, those houses were knocked down by the government. But Professor of Urban Planning at the University of Technology, Dr. Carol Archer, says the government needs to employ measures to alleviate any recurrence of such devastation. She's suggesting the enactment of legislation to formalize settlement arrangements, especially on former sugar lands.
The government who would have taken over or acquired the sugar land, they unfortunately had not put the necessary programs and projects in place to legalize, to allow these former employees to have legal tenure. Again, this is something that we as a society, by our government, have signed that we are going to put the necessary projects in place to not to demolish buildings and make people not having adequate shelter.
Social commentator Howard Mitchell is calling for a housing policy. He believes it's necessary if the issue of squatting, which is rampant across the island, is to be addressed.
There's a tradition and a culture and a history. Because we do not have registered land, or not have registered land, because titles to land have been fully issued for the island of Jamaica, there's a culture and a history of people buying land titles without proper identification, sometimes with a survey, sometimes with just understanding. And the government itself has been guilty of this.
Mr. Mitchell noted that there have been long-standing issues in which people have been given lands for over 40 years, and to date, titles have not been issued to them. He listed Numperl in Westmoreland as one such area.
What bothers me is that we do not seem to be focusing on the situation of homelessness, on the situation of squatting, while it continues to provide the fuel for another problem, which is crime, violence, and mental illness. And unless we address it as a root cause, we're going to continue to build a society. And that is, for me, the way the state fails.
As for the Clifton situation,
if there are alleged youngsters who have been selling lots and who have gone in, spent money, scribe road, use heavy equipment to subdivide lots, use surveyors, why haven't they been arrested?
A parliamentarian has blasted the Jamaica Public Service, JPS, for being insensitive to customers. Now, especially those in rural Jamaica. MP for Northeast St. Catherine, Carencia Morrison, was making her contribution to the State of the Constituency debate earlier this week.
As soon as the sky becomes overcast, light gone, sometimes for no apparent reason, there is an outage for hours, there is an outage for days. JPS, do you know that this spells disaster for schools, for a shopkeeper, for businesses? That fat chicken farmer having just killed, they hear say what? Life gone, light gone, and the entire stock is spoiled. Madam Speaker, this happens why? Because you did not clear overhanging trees.
Meanwhile, traffic congestion in Brownstown, St. Anne has led to calls for the town to be expanded. MP for Northwest St. Anne, Crystal Lee, said the town should be redesigned to include a structured town plan and development.
The plan should not only comprise of diverting the traffic by creating bypasses and improved parking spaces, but it would also make sense for us at this time to investigate the expansion of the town to create more room for businesses and other entities. Madam Speaker, there are vacant lands, both private and government owned, from Brownstown heading to Orange Valley and from Orange Valley heading to Runaway Bay that can be considered for expansion.
Now, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is expected to address residents in Clifton, Vernon Lodge, St. Catherine shortly. Now, we have on the phone our reporter Kirk Wright, who is in Clifton and now joins us live. Kirk?
Well, the Prime Minister is in fact in the Clifton community. He arrived there some 45 minutes ago, much to the delight of residents pregnant with questions, and the Prime Minister did make it clear to many of them whose houses were demolished yesterday that the demolition process has ceased until talks with the SEJ are completed. He again reassured them that in this community that there will be a housing development and that the people who are here whose houses were demolished may get preferential treatment. He also encouraged them to come forward, speak to the authorities, speak to the SEJ as to who they purchased their land from, because he says that he again reiterated the fact that criminals have been selling land and the government need to put a stop to it. At the moment, he's speaking with several of the residents here, some of whom have said that they've acquired their land legally from the SEJ. He told one woman that in this case she would have to provide the proof and then they'll have further discussion with her. At the moment now, he's touring the community because as he came, he met with the residents. At the moment, he's touring the community and checking the area where the demolition took place. Okay?
Now, Kirk, did he say when that meeting with the SEJ will be held? Did he say when that meeting with the SEJ will be held?
Well, he didn't say exactly when the meeting will be held, but he told the residents that as soon as they come forward with their evidence, those who have said that they have obtained their land legally from the SEJ, then the discussion will start as to how they proceed forward.
All right, thank you very much, Kirk Wright, there in Clifton in Vernon Lodge, St. Catherine. And we'll have more on that story in Primetime News at 7. Now, the government is moving to update legislation to tackle the prevalence of Molly in Jamaica. The aim is to catch the producers and traffickers of the substance. Prime Minister Andrew Holness gave the update at a recent meeting of the National Security Council. The National Council on Drug Abuse recently highlighted the growing use of the drug among students. The council revealed that Molly, vaping, and edibles are the top 3 substances being used by Jamaican students. Mount Vernon in St. Thomas has been affected by another landslide. It happened on Wednesday during heavy rains in the area. There was a landslide in the area last week during then Tropical Storm Ian. The roadway is now blocked, preventing vehicular traffic, and the Mount Vernon Primary School was forced to close. Member of Parliament for St. Thomas Western, James Robertson, says the National Works Agency is aware of the issue and efforts are being made to clear the roadway.
I believe equipment will be mobilized very quickly. I'm trying to get the contractors who are building the road from Morat Bay to Cedar Valley to use their equipment and get it done quickly.
And the high school students are being encouraged to prepare themselves for the increased demand for technological services in a growing digital economy. The call comes from principal of the Manchester High School, Jasper Gabriel. Mr. Gabriel was speaking with TVJ News following a donation of over $800,000 by the NCB Foundation towards the purchase of a digital router for the school.
We are now in the digital age, and we have to make sure that we make all the necessary provisions so that we can fast-track learning and get our learners and educators in touch with the realities of the 21st century.
Meanwhile, CEO of NCB, Septimus Blake, says he is encouraging the students to empower themselves through financial literacy and technology in a fast-developing global digital society.
Our focus on digital in terms of, building skills, digital skills, which are in high demand, empowering young people to take advantage of this demand to earn a living, improving financial literacy, improving digital skills, but more importantly, allowing them to build businesses, and that we believe is empowering.
And it's now time for the Business Minute. Here's Sandy Williams.
In business news, JAMPRO President Diane Edwards has given notice that she will not renew her contract, which ends on December 31, 2022. She has opted to pursue other career opportunities after leading Jamaica's investment agency for nearly a decade. She was instated as the president in July 2013. The chair of JAMPRO, Melanie Subrati, said every effort will be made to source the best talent for the post of JAMPRO president over the next 3 months. Property developer Stanley Motor Limited plans to spend $1.8 billion to construct another building on the grounds of its 58 Halfway Tree complex in Kingston starting in January. The new building will rise 10 stories and will be marketed to outsourcing firms and seekers of office space for rent. It's expected to be completed in 18 months and commissioned by 2025. And that's it for the Business Minute this week. I'm Sandy Williams.
And it's now time for the top regional and international stories.
In regional news, the Pan American Health Organization PAHO says it is working closely with Haitian public health authorities and international partners to support the country's response to the cholera outbreak. After more than 3 years without reported cases, Haiti first confirmed earlier this month 2 cases of Vibrio cholerae. In an update on Wednesday, national authorities confirmed 11 cases, including 2 deaths, and a total of 111 cases under investigation in various communes around Port-au-Prince. PAHO has recommended that countries in the region strengthen their surveillance systems for the early detection of cholera and acute diarrheal disease. On the international scene, the U.S. is moving towards decriminalizing marijuana. President Joe Biden has issued a pardon for people convicted of simple possession at the federal level. He's encouraging governors to do the same for state offenses. He is also ordering a review of whether marijuana should be a Schedule I narcotic. Some say those steps are long overdue and a way for Biden to keep a campaign promise. Others point out that the announcement comes about a month before the midterms and right after OPEC Plus announced oil production cuts starting in November. Those could increase U.S. gas prices and hurt the broader economy. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Shane Masters. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, have a good afternoon.